Hi, everybody. Welcome back to this special edition of Tarot Insider. I'm your host, Dax Carlisle, founder of the Tarot Guild, president of the Tarot Guild. And my co-host, Suzanne, hopefully will be popping in anytime now if she can make it here to the broadcast. But I'm excited. This episode is the Coffee Tarot Kickstarter kickoff with Ron and Janet Boyer.
Yay!
Hi, guys.
Hello.
Wow, it's been a whirlwind the last just 2 or 3 days, and you've launched the Kickstarter already.
Yep, and we're over the 3,000 mark already. Yeah,
that was the amazing thing. It was less than 24 hours. You had gone past your goal.
Yeah.
In less than 24 hours.
We're really shocked.
Yes, and I wrote an article about that and popped it out on Twitter. And
I saw. Thank you. I shared it everywhere.
I just thought it was amazing. I love what's happening. I mean, just 24 hours and people are so interested in this project.
Yeah, and the majority of them are going for the higher levels too. In our secret coffee tarot group, in our secret coffee tarot group, I asked them, what kind of add-ons would you like most? And I had a poll. And I had things like mugs and bookmarks and tote bags. And the top of everybody's list was a full-length companion book for me. And I'm like, oh my gosh. So, I wanted to give them, what they wanted. I knew I'm going to have to hire a friend of mine who's a book designer because I don't quite know how to do that. And I want it to be full color, thick, juicy, full of spreads, tidbits, games, puzzles, fun stuff.
Awesome.
Artist thoughts from Ron. Also me with keywords and correlations. So I'm going to have to get cracking on that because I haven't started yet. And I haven't done tons of coffee research. Ron read a lot of the coffee books. Mm-hmm. And so I would provide more of the tarot background. He would tell me some stuff about what he read, and then we would come up with a lot of the images. So a lot of the people who are backing us at the Espresso Patronum level, which is the bag, the deck, and my full-length companion book, which is
That's what I would want. I would want the deck, the book, and the...
Yeah, and I'm just so grateful that people, actually want a book to go with it. And so in the near future, I have my stuff, my ducks in a row. I'm getting ready to, actually write it. And it all just happened so fast. Like we were chatting before we went live, we were thinking about doing the Coffee Tarot Kickstarter in the fall. But it just seemed like a weird timing thing. And I said, you know what, why don't we just launch it? And you know what the weird thing is? And I did not know this until after the fact. You probably know it since you're into coffee. So we decided to launch it August 1st. I got an itchy finger, couldn't wait. So I launched it July 1st. But did you know August is National Coffee Month? See, I forgot to tell you that. No. We did not know that.
It's called divine timing.
Exactly. I had no idea, and I was like, oh my gosh, it just seems so right. And so I hurried up and got to work on the graphics, and boom, we launched July 31st.
Well, for those that aren't aware, in my previous life, I owned and ran coffee houses. So, coffee's been my thing for 25 years or more, right? I started when I was living in Seattle, and that was 1990.
I didn't know you lived in Seattle. No wonder. That's like the world, except for South America, it's like the world hub of coffee.
Well, Starbucks was not even a household name at that point. It was more of a West Coast phenomenon, especially the Northeast. And we had Starbucks, Seattle's Best Coffee, and then, of course, the independent coffee houses. And, 1/3 of the population would only go to Starbucks, 1/3 would only go to, Seattle's Best, and the other third wouldn't touch either corporation. They would only go to independent coffee houses.
Right.
Yeah, so I was in on the beginning of all that.
Wow.
Back around the time when we first started doing a radio show together, so 2010-ish, I'm thinking, like way back, I actually had thought about this concept before. Because here's my two favorite things, tarot and coffee. Why not put them together? Of course, my concept, not being an artist, I wasn't sure how to make it manifest, really.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I had some ideas. Now, my ideas were completely different from what you guys are doing. My ideas were it was all going to be centered around actual coffee houses, because I would frequent all these different coffee houses besides my own. And, you know, for me, the barista was the magician. Elements of the tarot like wands, well, you have the steaming wand on the espresso machine, you know, obviously cups, all those kind of things. But it was all going to be photographic. Yeah. And
our barista is the two of coins, the juggling card.
yeah.
She's throwing up the sauce, and she's making, you know, this great concoction.
So for me, it was more of a fantasy. And then when you guys decided to do, well, when you did the first version of the Coffee Tarot, the Majors Only deck,
Mm-hmm.
you know, I was like, oh, goody, goody, you know. But when you decided to go full bore and do all 78 cards plus, it's like a fulfillment of a idea, fantasy vision of my own.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm like following along with you guys going, yeah, you know, like, coffee and tarot, how can you go wrong, right? I mean, look, I'm sitting here with my iced coffee, folks.
This is one of our refrigerator magnets. Oh my God, I think this might be my favorite card.
That is so neat, like Mario Brothers.
Yeah, he made it like pixely. This is all just watercolor pencils. He's never done anything like this.
Mm-hmm.
He did it as if it were a game, you know, and you could see the sword, because this is the Seven of Swords strategy, and you can see the power up coffee. Like,
okay.
Isn't that cool? So we have that magnet because it's one of my favorites. But
love magnets.
That's what we do. I write books that I wish were written. We create decks that we wish existed. And originally we were going to do the Christmas tarot, but Ron didn't want to be limited to just Christmas. But I still have that deck scripted, and I'm still hoping someday I could talk him into doing a Christmas tarot. But coffee, yeah, years ago, even before the majors, I said, oh, we could do a coffee deck. And we started brainstorming, and we weren't going to do a full deck because Ron was like, you know what, I don't think I could do a whole 78 deck in just a brown color palette. It's getting old.
Yeah, getting old.
I said, well, you know, so we let it lay for about a year and a half or so, and I kept asking him, you want to do a full one? Because people kept asking. And he goes, no, I don't want to do it. No. And then I kept saying, well, you know, we can always change the colors. They don't all have to be in coffee tones. I said we could, for cups, we can do like a lot of aquamarines and pinks. For the coin suit, we could do a lot of green and golds and browns. For swords, we could do grays and purples and blacks. And for the wand suit, a lot of reds and oranges and yellows. I said, we don't, have to stick. I said, I think it's cool that we did the majors all coffee colored and all different browns.
Sure.
Said, but that's what sets it apart. And so I kept asking, kept planting bugs in his ear and smiling, and, and then finally I seduced him into, okay, and then once we started brainstorming and we started creating it, it was like, that's it, down the rabbit hole, huh? And now he's like excited. He comes home from work and he eats and he goes into the art studio. I'm
along those lines, I've got some questions for Ron specifically about that. But before that, very beginning, you guys are into coffee apparently.
Yes, very much so. So is Noah. Noah, I think, might have surpassed us in addiction. Yeah. I don't know. Ron, though, he gets out he does the whole French press thing where his stuff looks like tar.
That is the best way to make coffee, French press.
Oh, my gosh. It's strong. It's almost like espresso in a way. It's really rich. I have to put sugar and creamer in mine, though.
It's got like a chocolate.
It almost has like a chocolatey taste to it. It's really good. So he gets like the strong roast, like French or Italian or espresso roast, and then he makes the French press, and oh my God, then we're all high on creativity, and and it's fun. But we all love coffee. We really do. And we keep buying mugs, and we're running out of space in the cabinet, so we have to, put them all in the basement. Oh, I have a mug I should have brought. I bought a mug a couple weeks ago. We went to the Carnegie Museum in Pittsburgh, and I have the coolest Mr. Rogers mug. it has him in his suit and has all his little sayings, and it has, I see the box of it up there, and the little trolley and that. And then when you put the hot coffee in, his suit turns into his sweater because of the heat. I love it. I'm afraid to use it though, because he's like a saint to me. He's like a patron saint. So I just kind of keep it in the cabinet and smile and look at it. But we collect mugs too.
In addition to, coffee itself, the varietals, all the things you can do with coffee, the various drinks, lattes, mochas, cappuccinos, all that. But also, just the paraphernalia, like cups, is a whole subset on its own. And I know I saw that we can get coffee Tarot mugs. Yeah. Which is really cool.
And I don't have it here. Do you want to go run and get it? And Ron will go run to the kitchen to show it. Yeah, we bought it months ago. I went to, I can't remember what site. We use various sites to fulfill our different swag things that we buy for ourselves. And I saw this coffee mug where you can pick 4 different images. And I said, oh my gosh, we could just pick our own coffee tarot images, not thinking about Kickstarter or anything.
Right.
And
just for yourself, yeah.
Right. And so I picked 4 of our favorite majors. Like there's the tradition card where the hunters are chasing like the coffee antelopes. And then we picked the fuel card, which is our version of the chariot. And the stars card with the magic lasso.
Oh, it's Wonder Woman.
Yeah. Oh, and then this is our version of the hermit. We call it Seeking, and it has lots of books. And if you look close on the card, you wouldn't believe the names of the books there. I mean, Ron made out their bags, like Baby's First Cup. There are actual titles in there, and it spells out coffee. And one of the add-ons in our coffee tarot, if people want it, is they can get this mug with any 4 images. So if they were, let's say, a water sign like Scorpio, Cancer, or Pisces, if they wanted, they could get all 4 of the court cards from the water suit. They can mix and match, do all browns, or they could do, their favorite cards, their birth cards plus other things. If they're married, their birth cards and their honey's birth cards. So it's really cool and unique. When I saw it, I'm like, oh gosh, we're going to have to offer that as an add-on, because it's just so, because it says coffee and it has the images. I mean, it was just such a perfect design.
Yes, absolutely perfect. And I don't know if you remember, but way back when we co-hosted a radio show, I used to call you the Wonder Woman because of all the things you did.
Right.
Yeah,
a lot of people do. It's amazing.
And the books and tarot and the radio shows and everything.
And homeschooling and running a household and doing all the business side and doing all my graphics, doing all social media. We don't have any support, well, except Noah now. But I mean, we don't have any like virtual assistants or anything. I mean, we, mostly me, do everything. But it's okay. I mean, it's like what I feel like what I was.
Fräulein. Das Wunderfräulein.
That's just, and I also have a Wonder Woman mug, and I have 3 Wonder Woman posters. I have a bauble doll. Yeah. So coffee and Wonder Woman are like my thing. And tarot.
So Ron, where was your head from? Okay, you're about to start making 22 cards for the Majors Only deck versus this time where you had to make, 50, 60 cards.
Extra.
You get more gray hair.
Well,
Silver Surfer.
Yeah, I was already gray to begin with. Now it's going to fall out.
No, don't say that.
I'm already there. That's already happening.
Well, it's a small piece of the pie to do 22. 22 cards is quite manageable. I did the majors. It didn't take too long. I can't remember how long exactly, but I breezed through it pretty well. But I was limited by the color palette. I stayed with browns, kind of off reds, black and white, and some tan. So that kind of freed up the process to quickly do an image. There wasn't a whole lot of decision making on colors. Then you go into the rest of the deck, and then it becomes a major undertaking, especially for things as obscure as the court cards. We weren't really sure how to approach that. And so when we came up with the idea of interchangeable crowns for the king, queen, and etc. That sort of like propelled me into, okay, this is cool. This will be a pretty good process to infuse a lot of color. Now I can see it. Before I was a little skeptical how that would really play into the whole idea of coffee. So once we hit the court cards and got those out of the way, it felt like, okay, we're on a roll. And I was there for a while. It did, I mean, life gets in the way sometimes, and I did slow down a little. But I think it's been pretty good, up to this point. And now I'm really feeling, the momentum, because I only have I think about 12 or 11 cards.
You have to do a new backing, so I think it's like 12. And then since we surpassed our goal, some of the stretch goals are bonus cards. So
can you explain those for everybody? What the
bonus cards? Well, they haven't been actually.
What a stretch goal is and what you mean.
Oh, okay. Yeah. Well,
a lot of people are new to Kickstarter.
Yeah, I'm sorry. Yeah, Kickstarter or Indiegogo, those are crowdfunding platforms to help artists like ourselves to fulfill a goal. And not just artists. I mean, there's chefs, there's musicians, designers, there's inventors. It's people who put something up front and say, okay, here's my idea, here's my plan. Would you be a part of it and contribute? But you don't just contribute, you get some goodies in return. In our case, you get things like the actual coffee tarot. It could have an exclusive Kickstarter box. It could have a hand-sewn bag. It could have the companion book. But we also want to have lower levels, so if someone couldn't afford it, they could at least support us by maybe contributing $5, and they get a nice coffee bean desktop that Ron made. Doesn't have any logos on it, so anybody can use it. PDFs, digital, like of spreads or what have you. So anyway, that Kickstarter is a platform to help artists like ourselves fulfill publishing or design dreams. Now, every creator sets a goal of what they think they need in terms of finances to publish what they, their goal in mind, like a certain amount of decks or whatever, and they figure out a certain dollar amount. Well, we surpassed our $2,000 amount goal within 24 hours, but creators often have what's called stretch goals. That means if we keep going up higher and higher, at every $1,000 we unlock extra goodies that people will get. And 3 of those are bonus cards that Ron will make. It will be exclusive to the Kickstarter deck, those who pledge through Kickstarter. So yes, we are going to have a coffee tarot available after Kickstarter, but it is not going to have the bonus cards, and it's not going to have the 4 significators, which we could talk about that, the Soul GPS. It won't have those special cards either. So if we, reach the next funding level of add-on, not add-on, stretch goals, and you can see it on our Coffee Tarot Kickstarter link, Ron will do a brainstorm card. Then if we go another 1,000, he's going to do Goddess Caffeina. And then the 3rd bonus card will be the Caffeinated Squirrel, which is a homage to the squirrel cards that the Simpsons spawned, that many have added to the deck, and we thought, well, wouldn't it be funny to have a caffeinated squirrel? But then if we go even beyond that, we're going to have things like signed postcards, and if we reach the highest level, we're going to actually have 8x10 metallic prints sent to anybody, all of our backers, no matter what amount, signed by us if we reach that level. So
nice.
That's what stretch goals are. They're basically saying, hey, let's get the momentum, share the link with everybody you know, because then if we do that and we unlock it, Ron will do it. Now, if we don't reach it, Ron won't do it. But it is exclusive, and that's exciting too, because it's not like these people are pledging and everybody's going to benefit even if they don't support us. Right. These cards are only going to be in the decks that have been pledged through Kickstarter, and for those who get the ones with the exclusive tuck box, we're going to send out a poll and ask people what images they want on the exclusive tuck box. That is also not going to be available post Kickstarter. That's only going to be available through Kickstarter.
So the supporters are actually getting to design the box.
Yeah, they get to vote on what's going to be like the front image, the back image, the sides. They get to vote on that. There was something else I think they get to.
Well, wait, before I forget, Janet, I want to let everybody know that haven't been there yet that if you open a new tab in your browser and type in tarotguild.org/coffee-kick, tarotguild.org/coffee-kick, it'll take you straight to their Kickstarter page.
Or you could even go to janetboyer.com. I rearranged the website.
Boyer, but I was just trying to make it easy for folks to get there, you know.
There's a lot of ways to go. Tarot.coffee will take you right to our page on our site. Yeah. Or even if you Google Coffee Tarot, it'll come up. It's like one of the first 3 links. So.
Yep. So I want everybody to be heading over there right now and checking out all the videos.
Every little bit helps. And we might be also, there's another thing that we might be adding, and I'm looking into it. I sent out my first update within right after the 24-hour mark, and I said, is there anything else anybody would like? Please let us know. And someone mentioned a spread cloth. So I'm looking into having a special.
Oh, definitely. We need a spread cloth.
Yeah, so I'm going to be thinking about that and adding that to the add-on. And then
I know that Cyril Marchetti is doing that with especially his newest deck, which he's working on right now. The bags, the spread cloths, also a clothing line.
I saw that. Yeah, he's having his wife Maria.
Gorgeous.
Making clothes.
And although it's kind of aimed, like the one he showed was, you know, aimed at the women, you know, I was like, I still could see myself wearing that and doing it.
Some guys could definitely pull it off.
Some of us could pull that off. But I also told him, I said, hey, don't forget, there's more and more male tarot readers these days, so you got to think of some cool stuff for us too.
True.
I was telling Chiro that on one of his recent posts on Facebook, but yeah, we want swag.
Mm-hmm. And we're trying to accommodate. That's why we have a whole section of add-ons that people, in addition to their pledge, they can increase their pledge, and then when I send out the surveys, they can tell me what they increase their pledge for, which could be like magnets, a tote bag, the mug. Oh my God, I can't even remember. Even our Snowland deck is an add-on if somebody wants our Snowland deck.
I saw that too. I thought that was a great idea.
Any of my print books.
I would have never thought of that. See, and that's
yeah. That was like a last minute thing. I was like, wait a minute, and I even had a level called Cool.
Wait, we have another deck.
Yeah, well, we have two people who've pledged at the Cool Beans tier. The Cool Beans tier is the Coffee Tarot and the Snowland deck, and they both come with bags. And I was like, that was a last minute thing, and you were like, oh, that's a good idea. And I'm like, yeah, I know, but it was really it was really last minute. So we have a bunch of cool add-ons that people could get too, like, you know, the magnets and mug and a bunch of other stuff that I can't.
Oh, we want everything. We want
glossy metallic prints, prints that actually have like a metallic sheen to them.
Yeah, you know. Tote bags for your tarot, deck and your spread cloth and everything else goes in tote bag.
Exactly.
Yeah. Well, back to the Kickstarter for just a second. I wanted to mention how I've noticed how it's changed like that with Kickstarter, especially with, you know, these tarot deck projects. Because Kickstarter, you know, and Indiegogo and things like that, the idea is to raise the capital rather than going to, you know, like an angel capitalist or something like that, or taking out a loan. You crowdsource the capital to get a project off the ground, and you know, this is what we need, all of these different things. It costs so much, and we have this cool idea. We want to make X, and so people fund it, and then you make X. But with the tarot deck thing, it seems like it's become more of a new modern selling platform. Half the time the projects are already created. You know, they really don't need the money to produce the deck like they did in the old days, because you can go through like Game Crafter and sell on demand, things like that. And basically it's just a selling platform. You get the funds, you're able to use those funds to purchase the decks, the materials for the swag and everything like that, and then get it out to the people. And then of course, you know, you have all these exclusives that you only can get with the Kickstarter version. I think it's great. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's interesting how rather than going on to these platforms and say, I have an idea for a deck and I have maybe one card drawn up, if that, will you fund me? Now it's more like, well, I've got 90% of the deck done, you know, I'm going to be shipping in a month. You know, I mean, it's such a change over, like, say, 3, 4, 5 years ago. What do you think about that?
I think it's different for every creator. Some creators do need the capital because they are getting their decks printed in China.
Exactly, yeah.
And so China printing requires bulk orders, and that's usually at least 500. And so they actually do need thousands of dollars of capital in order to mass produce their deck. And then sometimes their stretch goals are upgrading to like gilded edging or a fancy magnetic box, or you know, UV coating or spot metallic, you know, touches. And we thought about that. We were in talks with a Chinese publisher, but you know, I received some of the decks from other Kickstarters I had supported, and I wasn't overly, I mean, it was gorgeous and beautiful, but it just didn't feel right for our deck. And not only that, I just felt like I wanted to go with an American publisher. I just felt that I want, you know, our seamstress is right in the town I grew up in, 3 miles away. I wanted to keep the income in America. Not that I'm America first or anything like that, but I just felt it was important to support American printing, you know, and because they really can't, they have a hard time competing with Chinese printers.
Oh yeah, because it's dirt cheap.
Because Chinese printing is cheaper, and but you know, I just it's just a decision that we had.
So now, what company are you going through?
We're going to go through the Game Crafter.
Game Crafter. I thought so. I just wanted to clarify.
Right.
And you've already, of course, you've gotten samples. And so, Ron, what do you think of the quality of the paper, for instance?
Well, I have to actually redesign all the cards, actually, because in our original deck, we had borders.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
But we're going to make this version borderless. So I have to redesign it to where I cut off those all the white borders and just leave the strip at the bottom. And we've been very happy. That's who prints our Snowland deck. And I love the fact that it's large and it shows the art. A lot of times you can't find the jumbo size. What do you think about it?
Yeah, I like the size. I mean, it's, you know, it's not ridiculously large where you can't, you know, handle it and flip it.
Right. There's flexibility because some of the mass market ones that have large Oracle decks like Blue Angel Gallery in Australia and other ones, they have the larger, or especially for Oracle, but they're so thick and they're not easy to shuffle. They like stick together. They're almost like thick and waxy. With a Game Crafter, they're large and flexible, but they hold up. Like I have my Snowland deck I've used for over 5 years and no problem, no tearing, no fading, gorgeous colors. So I figure, you know, why mess with, you know, a good thing? You know, I have a good relationship with them. Go ahead.
I mean, you need cards that can slide against each other.
Yeah, we feel.
And these do.
They slide really nicely, whereas some of those thicker ones from mass markets. And another reason why a lot of tarot artists are going crowdfunding is because of the quality of some of the mass market decks. You know, you'll see people complain about the cardstock, or they say that it's offset. And the artists a lot of times don't have control. Like maybe an artist doesn't want to have borders, but the publisher insists. And also tarot artists and creators and authors, they don't make a lot of money. I mean, if a mass market publisher, you're lucky to get an advance. If you do get an advance, it may only be $3,000, but some of them don't even give an advance. And tarot creators only make about $2 or less per deck that's sold.
Right.
You go through Kickstarter, or you even sell from your site, or even have pre-orders on Etsy, you get more of a profit, you know, and then you can use those funds the way you want. You can design the cards the way you want. You know, you don't have to bow to a publisher's idea. Like this one publisher insists on, like, if you have a 5 of Swords card, you have to have 5 swords in there somehow. Well, we don't just do cards like that. We convey the meaning of the card and then put the title at the bottom, you know, because sometimes you really stretch believability, and you know, it just becomes so Rider-Waite-ish. Everything is a version of Rider-Waite. And that's okay. I mean, it's the most popular deck. It's what most people learn on. It's what a lot of books are based on. But so many of us were so tired of it. So I really think this is the golden age of tarot. Because if you go to Kickstarter, Indiegogo, or even especially Etsy, you put in tarot decks, the most gorgeous, beautiful decks that blow away anything you'll get mass market. Will you pay more money? A little bit. Sometimes not quite so much. I mean, you pay 20, 25, sometimes 30 for a mass market. Well, you might get a handmade or an independent one for 30, 35, 40, 45. But you're also supporting artists directly. They're actually getting compensated in some way for the creativity rather than the publisher taking all the money.
Well, you know, rather than the mass market where, I mean, you have decks that are 12 bucks, 15 bucks, 18 bucks, and it's just, it becomes a widget versus, you know, an actual art form.
Yeah.
And it should be 45 bucks, you know, I mean.
Yeah, it becomes like a disposable commodity. I think it lessens the art form.
Which is why.
It lessens the oracle form.
Right.
It does it a disservice, I feel.
But that's also why I asked you guys about the quality, because a lot of the mass-produced decks are known to be so flimsy. I mean.
Oh, yeah. There are some cards I've gotten in that actually have the especially the waxy kind where the like Hay House, it would like pill up after a while, plasticky, or especially if they have black borders, you'll see the edges. Sometimes they'll even come in a box, the edges will be folded or crinkled. I mean, with Game Crafter, we've never had any trouble with that kind of thing. And if we ever had any problems, they will work with us on trying to remedy it and troubleshoot. So we're really happy with it. And I mean, as a person who is a tarot reader, professional, you know, makes money reading tarot, it's important for me to be able to shuffle fast and easy. And like Ron said, they slip and slide very good. And they're flexible, but they're not cheap. You know, they're not where they tear or they will start to fray at the corners. Like I said, my Snowland deck is a working deck for over 5 years. And I have no fraying. I have no fading of color, no bending, nothing. And I love it. So I figure, you know, stay with what you know and what you can guarantee.
I think it frees up the creativity, you know, now that we're in this modern era where you're able to do these funding projects, these crowdfunded, and have so much, you know, so much more artistic leeway, and you're, you know, fully in control. I mean, I have a concept for a deck that's never been done before, and before this era, it would not have been able to have been done because a traditional publisher is not going to take a chance on something that is as far out there as what I'm thinking of. And
that's true. There's one mass market that turned down the Zombie Tarot, and they told the creator, I heard it from her mouth, we don't do funny. The Zombie Tarot is one of the most brilliant decks. It's by the same publisher who did the Housewives Tarot. But you have this one, the so serious metaphysical publisher that will only do, you know, serious pagan things, and you know, it has to have the 7 swords in it and what have you. And that's, with independent, you could be as inventive and as wild as you want, and you can guarantee that there'll be somebody out there that would like it. No deck is for everyone 100%, but you can guarantee there'll be an audience for your creativity. And it's good for the soul. You're creating art. You're having fun with it. You're stretching your own mental capabilities and your creative by saying, okay, how would I transform this archetype, this card, into this theme? And it becomes addicting, actually. It's quite fun.
When I get to that point, I'm going to be picking your guys' brains, because this is something that can only be done through Game Crafter. I'll explain to you. Oh,
sure.
Nobody's, you know. I mean, this is going to be the first deck that you don't have to shuffle, and also a shuffleless deck, and also at the same time, you know, no reversals at all. And I'll explain it to you.
Well, actually, we have a deck
way out there. Let me tell you.
Well, hey, that's good. And, you know, there's always a market for that. We have a deck idea that we want to do after this. It's not the Christmas deck.
But you still want to do the Christmas deck, I can see.
I know. Someday, I'm holding out someday that we might do the Christmas. But there's a deck that we plan on doing after Coffee Tarot that's It really excites me, and it's a dream of mine, and I can't tell it. We
I know,
absolutely,
me too. I can't say anything because
yeah.
you know
All
how
I
it
can,
is in the
all
tarot
I can
community. They will
say
just
next
steal
week.
your ideas instantaneously.
You won't even let me say. You won't even let me say that.
There's only so many art.
That's true. Okay.
We'll talk later. We'll talk later.
Well,
But
that we haven't even brainstormed how
you
that's
know,
going to work.
but you know how you know ideas are like snapped up in the tarot community. You cannot even whisper your concepts.
No. Or you'll have somebody steal it,
Yeah.
usually.
I mean, I've probably said already too much.
Well, you know, it's funny because when I announced our Christmas tarot, when we were going to start doing that, another tarot author went out and snatched up ChristmasTarot.com.
I remember that.
And then she went out and scrounged around the internet for vintage Christmas photos and made her own, you know, and then when I called her out on it, she didn't print it. She just made it for people who
Well, then it's just a collage.
print it
anyway.
out themselves. But it just goes to show how if you put an idea out there, people will swipe it. Like I had the idea for 365 Tarot.
Right.
And maybe I was foolish for advertising it. And nobody had ever had that idea. Next thing you know, there's an author doing 365 this, tarot this, 365 tarot that. I'm like, okay, whatever, but it's not going to be like mine.
You got to keep thinking that way. Us true fans of particular authors and artists, you know,
Right.
like you,
Thank you.
you know, we know the quality and
Right.
you know the difference.
Yeah, we put in tons of work. I mean, as a writer, you know, if you're my friend on Facebook or Twitter, if you talk to me, you know how much work I put into my books and well, anything really. We don't half-ass anything. I always go above and beyond because remember, you know, I was a tarot reviewer before and I had real high standards. So I know in my mind what works and what doesn't work, what doesn't pass muster, what hasn't been done
Exactly.
before. And so still have that reviewer and that critical editor in my mind. So if I'm not creating something that hasn't been done before, if I'm not contributing something original and innovative, and if I'm not somehow transforming old tarot archetypes and making it modern, then I'm not going to waste my time with it. You know, it has to fit all those criteria.
Because somebody will be out there doing that. The lesser, you know.
Yeah. It's like we didn't have many modern, you know, sassy tarot books there for a while because it was all so serious. And then, you know, I talk about Naked Tarot 4 years ago. It took me a while to write it, but then next thing you know, we have modern tarot now and a modern guy. It's just like, you know, so then it becomes popular. And I've seen that happen more than once with my Back in Time tarot idea. You know,
was a book to Sassy Tarot, isn't there?
I don't know about sassy, but
It has the word sassy in it, I thought.
My subtitle of my Naked Tarot book is Sassy Stripped Down Advice.
Okay.
So
I'm thinking of a particular author, younger, more modern. It was a modern, but I can't remember the title now.
Yeah.
But it was something similar. Yeah.
That's like years ago, Laura Brown and I did the Tarot Bitches show, and then people thought, oh, she uses bitches, so now and now there's a Tarot Bitches deck, and other people are saying, you know, bitchy tarot, and I'm like, it's like, it's flattering being a pioneer and then seeing everybody, you know, it's like, okay. And they don't give you credit.
People only knew, you know, the funny thing is there's so many people out in the audience that are learning all this for the first time listening right now, that there are so many things. You can go down the list, all these things that are out there in the tarot world that really was inspired by the Boyers one way or another.
I hate to take credit for it, but you're right.
It's true, you know.
Even my Back in Time Tarot, which came out in 2008, but I was talking about it and advertising it in 2006 and 2007. So 2007 is when I signed the contract. No tarot group or email group, back then Yahoo groups, had a system where you learn tarot backwards by thinking of a memory or an incident of your life or a biographical or a news item or a fairy tale, a book, a favorite movie, a song. And then you say, okay, well, what tarot cards would you ascribe to that? Start journaling, and then you learn tarot backwards, anchored into your own memories and emotions. Next thing you know, there's, you know, now it's standard practice, you know, what popular movie reminds you of the King of Swords? And, you know, and it's like, okay, that was my idea, Back in Time Tarot, bit tarot idea. And yeah, and it's like, okay. And a lot of times, you know, they don't give credit, and maybe they don't know, you know, it's been passed around so long, somebody doesn't give you credit. And then it's like, oh, that's a cool idea. And they don't realize what the origins are. So
yeah.
I have to trust that the Akashic records, show
They'll
did
know.
it first. And so when we go on the other
It's written
side,
down.
I'll just be pointing, saying, ta-da, it was me. No.
You'll get them in the end. But back to the work. I want to go back to the work because I don't think a lot of people understand the amount of work and research. They think, oh, they came up with this cutesy idea for a cutesy coffee-related tarot deck, the
Oh,
coffee.
dear God.
They don't realize the research you did into coffee,
Yeah.
and the related topics and everything like that. I mean, and then of course all the artwork by Ron is just, I mean, that's a lot of work. But tell them about the research because I don't think they
You've
understand.
got that coffee atlas behind us. We actually have a coffee atlas. It's like an encyclopedia, and it's on the table, I think. Yeah, look on the dining room table. It's under that.
The coffee atlas, but
We have research papers,
how
books
many
everywhere.
books have you had to go through and manuals and research?
Yeah, well, Snowland took an extraordinary amount because, I was reading all of Hans Christian Andersen's tales, anything that had was connected to frost, ice, snow, winter.
Oh, yeah.
I had to do that. I was reading fairy tales from different worlds. I was looking at polar animals, researching those. I was looking into saints and figures that were connected somehow to winter and Christmas, like Charles Dickens and his stories. Some real life people we have in there, like polar explorers and Balto. And Snowflake Bentley. We have him as our queen of earth, our nurturer material. And so much went into that. And then coffee, same thing. We have this world atlas of coffee. And so Ron, has done a lot of research and looking into what the different kind of coffee bushes look like, that the fact that there's coffee cherries, there's actually fruit.
Yeah, it's actually a fruit.
Right, and how they pick them and dry them and roast them. So he used some actual pictures of coffee plants in our 7 of Earth card, which shows an African woman who is checking out it's the inspection card, and so she's checking out her plants with the cherries on them to see, how they're coming along. So he would actually look up pictures of plants and imitate them. He would look up harvesters, like the woman who is in that card. He would look up like African harvesters and people who actually grow and cultivate. And then because he wanted to be true to those who grow and to honor those who make their living through coffee. And what other things did you research and you try to include?
There's a lot to coffee, and it's a huge industry worldwide, and a lot of people make their life, coffee.
I did it for 20 years.
Yeah, exactly. And then there's also, the baristas and those who drink coffee. Yeah. There's the connoisseurs. There's those who make the machines, for the coffee industry. There's those who are latte foam artists.
I mean, there's like coffee for the world, to keep the world moving and get up in the morning and go. But there's also a high art form to coffee, with all the things you've said. And people are really artists, at the latte foam art.
Oh, yeah.
And that kind of thing.
For our the coffee tarot deck, Ron actually made an Android, and he called it the Latte Pro.
Latte Pro
8.0, and that's the 8 of Coins card, or the 8 of Earth card. And he had a Android who's sitting at a desk, and you can see like a whole row of lattes, and he's doing a foam pentacle in it. So Ron studied a lot of the latte foam artists, and got ideas of how the froth looks, how's the foam look, lots of reference pictures, coffee beans, like when we did the coffee bean background for the Majors Only deck, which we're going to do a totally different back for the Kickstarter. But if people pledge at any level, they'll get a wallpaper of it, and that's actual. He looked at coffee beans and he actually hand drew and colored them with watercolor pencils.
It looks real. It doesn't look hand drawn.
I know it's really beautiful. It's really stunning.
I've seen a lot of bean layouts like that before, but they were photographs,
Exactly.
and that's just amazing.
we were thinking about, I was thinking that if we did do a spread cloth, maybe doing it in this design. I'm not really sure. I'm just starting to look into that right now.
I think that's actually a really good idea.
Yeah, because then it's flat. The only thing about some spread cloths is they have so many design elements. I think it might detract.
Yeah, it interferes with actually looking at the images.
Right, the card and the reading.
Something that's more, basic like that and goes across the whole thing where you don't get the interference. I think it's perfect.
Exactly, and if I pick images, then it might detract from the reading because I'm including a card image on the spread.
Yeah.
So yeah, that's why I was thinking maybe if we just did the coffee beans, it's something monochromatic, but it's solid and it's a homage. And even if somebody didn't use our coffee tarot for their readings, a lot of tarot readers read tarot at coffee shops, so they could use the coffee spread cloth to read from any deck, or they could even use it to, if they wanted to tie up the ends, use it to carry their decks if they wanted. But of course, with our Kickstarter, we're providing either a box or a bag or both, hand sewn by our local seamstress. We picked out a fabric, but like I said in my first update, that if for some reason we run out of that fabric, backers can get, pick the next fabric we use. I'll pick out like 3 or 4 pretty fabrics and say, okay, what do you want our next bags to be made out of? And so we really wanted to make people at all levels a part of the voting process and to feel like they're, a collaborator with us, because they are. We can't do it without them.
My favorite place to do an in-person reading is in a coffee house. It's like
a lot of tarot people.
It's very relaxing for the client, and how cool that you can pull out your coffee tarot coffee spread cloth and your coffee tarot deck.
Yes.
And do it in a coffee house. I mean, it's just And
our coffee tarot is non-threatening. A lot of people get
to it,
there's no nudity, and a lot of people also get freaked out by some of the more negative cards, like they don't want to be sitting there doing a reading and there's a death card or a tower card or God forbid a 10 of swords card, and right there at a coffee shop or doing a reading. So like for us, like our devil card is caffeine. It shows a snake with the coffee bean pattern, showing, addiction and or going too far with too much caffeine or being a slave to it.
Yeah, I saw that the other day and I thought that's just perfect.
Yeah, and the tower is the rip, because let's face it, if somebody owned a coffee business, if rats got in the back, started chewing at it, and it, like a tower would all fall, that would be a disaster. And then our death, we have the out of business, where if a coffee shop were to go out of business, it is a form of that one too. Yeah, it is a form of death, but there's hope that somebody else will buy it and open it back up. And so
it's like an ending for one person, but for another business person, it would be the beginning.
Exactly, which is kind of what death is in a lot of ways. So so we still stay true to the archetypes, to the ancient meanings, but we just bring it out into modern life and say, okay, now if we had a coffee theme and we were trying to convey strategy, and if we were trying to convey analysis or maneuvering or cunning, what would we use? And so, we would use the 7 of Swords.
So Ron, how important was having diversity in the deck, especially people? And diversity, races, that kind of thing.
Well, I think it's very important because we are made of many races, ethnicities. The world is a color palette, kaleidoscope.
Okay.
And if you can't show that in a deck, I just think it's important to be honest that we live in a very diverse world. And coffee just doesn't come from your local brewer, or, from the bag, from the store. It has an origin, and that origin has a story, and there's many hands that goes through before it gets to your cup.
And most of those hands are people of color.
Yeah, and
that's what I was going to bring up, is that just in the world of coffee, if you think about it, from growing on the plantation through the whole process and making it to your local Starbucks or coffee house, it is handled by so many different types of people and in so many different countries. And there's
Our
coffee.
cat's, excuse us, our cat's crying to go be let out, so Ron's going to run and let out our cat Stewart. Yeah, it's true, and Ron always talks about that. He'll even say, you know, we need some more people of color in here, and like his next card is going to be the Three of Swords, and it's going to be like missed connections in an airport, and it's going to have an African American man in it, and our barista is Asian American, and then of course there's the woman at you know, looking at the plants, and she's African, and you know, even with Snowland it was important because Snowland is actually a Northern European type of motif in the sense that Celtic mythology and Nordic mythology are white and northern, but even then, you know, it was very important for us to incorporate different ethnicities and color skins. So you know, for our 5 of energy, we set it in Asia. And there's a snowball fight, and there's an Asian boy. For temperance, we have an African-American lady who is throwing salt on a sidewalk with an iris at a flower shop on the side. But also her hands have rainbow colors. And the rainbow colors of her gloves is not only a nod to Iris, the goddess of the rainbow, which is often included in the temperance cards in the Rider-Waite tradition, but it's also a nod to the lesbian gay community because of the rainbow flag, because our temperance was not only middle of the road, but it's also inclusion. And inclusion is very important to us. So there were some, you know, double, triple meanings on that card as well. So we try to embed symbols that break down barriers, that are more inclusive, that aren't so white like many decks are. And it was tricky though for the Snowland, since so many myths are Nordic in nature or Northern European, which, you know, people are light skinned, but even then it was important for us to include the different skin tones.
Well, I wanted to say about coffee. Coffee is a sort of analogy to our skin tone itself, because each one of us has some version or some value of coffee, whether it be coffee with a lot of cream or with no cream. You know, there's a really a long.
That's a great way to look at it.
That's true.
And I kind of think of it that way too.
Is that why I put even more cream in mine? I don't know.
I use so much. Ron jokes with me and he goes, "Are you having some coffee in your creamer, or is that creamer in your coffee?" I said, "Oh, stop it."
It's so true. It's so true. So to give some people, or to give folks a concept of scale, if we go back to the very, very beginning, before the first Majors Only deck, and you were first coming up with the idea, how long ago was this now?
How long did it take you to make the Majors Only? 8 months?
Yeah, it was well under a year.
I remember when we conceived of it, we were actually out on
that.
and we mentioned this in our Kickstarter video, we were out on the porch drinking coffee. And I had mentioned it before, but I said, we should really do a coffee deck. And
we were all jazzed up.
We were all high on
the idea in the first place.
Yeah, and he goes, well, how would that be? And sometimes we run and get the paper, and we started thinking, well, we could do this for this card and this for this card, and it stuck. And then we started getting excited, and then we're like, oh my God, what about this for this card? And, you know, then it had the idea, you know, we could just do it just in browns. And I knew how much work Snowland was for him, because he hand cut the boards. He sanded them to death. He gessoed them multiple times with, you know, white to make them smooth. Then he, you know, had the sketch, transferred the sketch, then acrylic paints. It took forever, you know, it took 2 solid years for Snowland, and I didn't want him to have to labor. And he hadn't really done pencil work. And I said, come on, I says, try watercolor pencils, because he would sketch and do cool things. And he goes, I don't know, because he liked doing acrylics, and that's what he was used to. And I says, look, I said, just experiment. I said, it'll be faster for you to do pencils. And I said, just try it out. Well, first he had the crazy idea to paint with coffee. So he actually brewed coffee. I
actually like that idea.
In brushes, but you know what? It's not very rich, and it was spreading, and it was crinkling the paper, and you couldn't get various tones, and it just wasn't working out. So then, you know, I finally, you know, encouraged him and coaxed him. I said, let's get some pencils. Let's try it. And it started coming out beautifully. And I said, oh my God, look how gorgeous these are, because the brown tones are just so rich and mouth-watering. And then he, you know, he did it, and he was like, oh, you know, this isn't so bad. And so he starts getting the hang of it, and then, but I couldn't push him past the majors. So I'm like, okay, majors only. And then I says, well, you know, people kept asking, oh, please do a whole deck, please do a whole deck. So I had to work on him for, oh gosh, a year and a half or so to even get him to consider it. So I can't remember, but once, you know, so there was a process of having the idea, brainstorming the cards, him experimenting with painting with coffee, which was crazy. And then me, you know, saying, come on, let's go buy some watercolor pencils, cajoling him to try that new medium. Him finally getting it, then doing the first card. And then once, I think your first card was the bean, wasn't it?
Yeah.
The Fool. The Fool was the bean, because it all starts with the bean. And when he's, you know, we saw how rich it was and beautiful, I said, oh my God, you could totally do a whole deck, come on. And then he kept doing it, and then next thing you know, it just kept escalating. But I can't remember the time frame, you know, because it's such an organic process with us. And if Ron is stubborn about something, I have to work on him.
It feels like about 3 years.
It could have been. It could have been. For example, like our 2 of air card, the political card, he did not want to do that. He didn't have an idea for the 2 of air or 2 of swords. And with all the political stuff going on in America, I said, why not have a mug showing the Republican symbol and the Democrat symbol? And it could show, you know, 2 opposing viewpoints, which would be the numerology of 2 of air or 2 of swords, being different opinions, debate, you know, spinning the news. And he didn't want to do it because we're not into politics. I mean, we're up on it, but, you know, it's so upsetting, some of the crap going on, that, you know, we tend to try to eschew a lot of it. And Ron takes on the energy of a card when he does it too. And I think that you were somewhat loath to do it because you had such a negative reaction to the political symbols, period. Yeah. Because both of the parties, you know, do some idiotic things that we're not so happy with, you know. And
yeah, I was really stuck. And whenever I get stuck, I just can't push through sometimes. And I don't know what got me back into it. Sometimes a feeling of desperation, like I'm stuck and I'll never get past this if I just don't sit down and actually force myself. And so I did eventually. Got through the card. It went faster than I thought it would. It's not a complicated card, but it was just the energy behind it was so, you know, not me. And so for me to get past that, then it was kind of like pulling the log out of the dam, and then just all the floodwaters start going again, and it's like, okay, we're back into it.
And then I do my I told you shows with a lot of kisses, and he laughs. But I think it came out really good. I was so surprised how he captured the vibrancy of the red and the blue with watercolor. It almost looks painted, and I'm like, oh wow, this is gorgeous, you know. And you did a good job on it. You're welcome. But it is difficult as tarot creators, or even as tarot authors, because I know when I was writing Naked Tarot, I dreaded 5 of Swords and 5 of Coins, 3 of Swords to an extent, because I have unique takes on them. But, you know, you almost take on the energy, and it becomes difficult. Like the 5 of Coins I love, or the 5 of Earth in our coffee tarot, but it's a guy outside a coffee shop that has a stained glass coffee door, almost church-like, you know, and he's out there, you know, with his cup, you know, looking down and out, and there's coins, and that's always, you know, a hard card to portray, because you kind of pick up that sense of desperation or poverty or illness, or, you know, so, you know, some of those cards are challenging to do because
I posed for that card too.
Oh yeah, you did.
So that's essentially me.
Yeah.
You know, altered a little bit because I didn't want to look just like me, but you know, I did take on that energy. I'm trying to feel that as I'm posing. I had Noah stand back and on our stoop in the front. He actually took a few pictures of me, and I take on that energy because I need to understand how to convey that
and how it feels.
Try to convey that feeling.
Yeah. So Ron actually sat on the front steps of her porch while Noah took pictures, and he a lot of the outfit in that card is kind of what you wore, the camo pants and a toboggan hat, And so, you know, if you have any emotional component to your life, which I hope that God most artists do, a sense of empathy, you kind of take on that card that you're writing about or you're trying to portray. And you not only want to do that for authenticity, you just almost can't help it. You know, in order to, I think, be an authentic artist, you are tapped into the energy of what you're doing, you know, and it's double tricky for Ron because he can't do art if he's upset. Some artists like enjoy the wallowing and the negativity or expressing negative. Yeah, but not Ron. See, if he feels upset or stressed, he cannot do art. So he has to be in a joyful state, which is thankfully almost all the time. But it's doubly tricky when you're doing a negative or a difficult card, you know, to not get sucked into that energy.
Yeah, because I want to give 110% of my effort to the card, to the image, and I can't do that if, you know, I'm distracted, or, you know, if it's kind of, you know, I'm kind of in between places, so I have to be really focused.
Yeah. And
that's how I create. I mean, I'm so focused that once I'm done with a session, I'll stand up and I'll stagger out of the art room, and I'll have a glazed look on my face.
He does. I'm like, here, and he comes from his art room and he goes, "Hey, babe."
Yeah.
And he walks over to me, puts his hand.
Like,
he goes, "How are you?" Yeah. And then I look up with my glazed eyes from writing. I'm like, "Hey, you want to go snuggle and watch a video?" You know? We're like these caffeinated, creative zombies, but we love it so much. And then we get a good night's sleep, and the next day we're like, "Hey, what are you working on today?"
Well, it probably is partly actually physically staring at the same thing for so long.
Yeah.
And you become entranced in that little window.
Yeah.
And you're actually in that. All else fades away. I hear music, I play music and whatever, and I'm aware of things around me, and I'll even be thinking about things. So it's not like I'm in a trance, but it feels enough that when you come out of it, and then you're like, okay, there's a world around me, you are kind of in a daze for a while.
Because he works hours at a time because he has a day job. And so by the time he gets home, you know, he only has so many hours to get cleaned up, eat, spend a little bit of time with us, and then create before he gets so tired that he has to get to bed to work the next day. And so when he works, he really maximizes his time at the art table. I mean, they're dedicated usually minimum 2 hours, but sometimes up to 5 or 6.
Yeah,
even more.
There's been times when there's a few cards, and I can't remember which ones, but I've almost done the whole card in one setting. That's difficult to do. Usually I don't.
That's always shocking when I go to bed and we're on different schedules and he stays up and I wake up the next day and goes, "I'll finish the card." I'm like, "What?" You know, and he's worked all night on it, you know, especially on weekends.
Oh, and speaking of the art, there's something a lot of people probably don't know, and that's about the wooden boxes. And in addition to the art that Ron's doing for the decks and so forth like that, you were talking about that, you know, he's a master wood burner artist as well, and that there's boxes available, which a lot of us love boxes to put you put your tarot deck into your tarot bag and into the box, you know.
Right.
Tell them about that, about the wood burning and everything.
Do you want to go get the box? Well, he'll go and get the box, actually. It's blank.
Oh, that'd be great, yeah.
Yeah. For our Majors Only deck, we had a special giveaway for everybody who bought a deck. I mean, we have a secret coffee tarot club on Facebook, and we do goodies for them. We give them sneak peeks of the art. We pull them. They're an intrinsic part of our process because they've been with us since the beginning. And one of the things we did is we entered them in a random drawing to win a custom pyrography wood burning tarot box. You know, no cost. And then Daryl won. And he gave us the themes he wanted. And the themes were like coffee, cats, Celtic knots, the hermit. And so Ron actually he did wood burning on all sides. This is actually bigger than the one Daryl had. So as you can see, it's a pretty big box. You could fit, definitely one deck, but 2 smaller ones in there. So this is the size box. And Ron, for those who decide to do the wood box. We only have 5 of those at that tier because Ron, it takes so long. Ron's like, you're going to have to limit those. I can't be. I'm like, okay, I'll limit to 5. I talked him into this one too.
Unless you start selling them like $300 a box.
It's a lot of work, but it's fun because then you get the input of the person.
$500 a box.
No, and they input their themes or their loves or whatever. And so Ron actually, he wood burns the fronts, the sides, the backs. He does the bottom, and he even does the inside. Like for box, he did like a hermit's lantern at this, the center of it. And so this is basswood. Basswood is the best wood to use for wood burning. And Ron's wood burns are just amazing. There's some of them at ronboyerart.com, but he does.
I saw some of them.
Yeah, they're gorgeous. He's done them and sold them for people. I don't even know if we have any left. People, usually they're commission pieces or people see it and they're like, oh, can we buy that? He actually sold a lot to his dad who wanted things, and he's done what? Bears and eagles, a lot of wolves, which he's still open for commissions, not so much now because of doing the deck, but he's done those as well. And so we thought, well, wouldn't it be neat at a higher tier to offer a special wood burn tarot box, and not that it's not cookie cutter. The person who chooses that tier can actually say, okay, I love these themes, mermaids or dragons or fairies or coffee or cats or, their astrological symbols or their animal totems or, whatever they want. They can input their symbols, and Ron will consult with them, and he'll make a special custom box for them that we will put their coffee tarot deck in and ship to them.
Pretty amazing stuff.
It is.
Wow. Before we end, I just wanted to mention, when you were talking about painting in coffee itself, that reminded me of my coffee coaster deck. Now, I know putting this out there that it's going to get stolen immediately, but that's okay because I've never done it. I talked to you about this. God, it was like back when we first started doing radio. So it was, in that 2010, 2011 era, 5, 6, 7 years ago. And in addition to the concept I had for a coffee deck, my other concept was a circular deck.
Oh, I remember.
That were coffee coasters. And then, how you have your coffee and you put it down on a coaster. If it's a light enough color, it's going to get the stains from the coffee cup. Yeah. And then I thought about, tea leaf reading and coffee ground reading. And I thought, oh, well, you have the stain from the coffee cup, and it makes an image, and that's each card.
Yeah.
And I haven't thought of that in years, but when you said Ron experimented with drawing in coffee, I'm like, oh yeah, that reminds me of the coffee coaster deck.
Yeah, you could do that because the Game Crafter now has round cards.
Yes.
So the only bad thing is, though, I don't know how much they would hold up if they got wet.
Yeah.
Is that R2-D2?
Hold on, my R2-D2 is going on.
I was like, we're being visited by R2-D2.
I forgot to silence my phone before starting the show.
Is Darth Vader next? Dun, 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 dun. My second cousin just got married a couple weekends ago, and when the couple came in to the reception, they came into the Star Wars theme. It was so awesome because the husband that my cousin married, the guy, he's really into Star Wars, and it was so cool. And I was like, oh man, too bad she didn't put her hair like Princess Leia, or they didn't have lightsabers or anything. But it was such an awesome wedding and reception. It was fantastic that they came into the Star Wars. I have a cool family.
That is really cool. Yep. Almost as cool as coffee tarot, but not quite.
Not quite. Not quite.
So head over to the Kickstarter, everybody. Remember, you can go to janetboyer.com, tarotguild.org/coffee kick. You can Google Coffee Tarot Kickstarter. It's going to come up. You can go to the Kickstarter website and type in Coffee Tarot, and it comes.
Go to tarot.coffee. We actually snagged up the .coffee domain when it first started, and
Yeah.
So we knew we were going to do the coffee tarot, and I was like, oh my gosh, let's see if it's available. So we snatched up tarot.coffee. So we have that domain. So
That's why I
.coffee.
couldn't get that one the other day. Damn it. I wanted tarot.coffee. Anyway.
Sorry. But you can always do your coffee coach, or wait, coach.coffee.
Coach.coffee.
You better hurry though. Somebody's going to snatch it. You know how it goes.
Snatch it. Well, what people don't know is the other day I was on the Kickstarter and saw your first update, and you gave a link where folks can go and put in a picture, and it creates coffee art of the picture, whatever it is, on the top of the latte in the coffee cup. And so I did that with my picture. If you go over to facebook.com and you'll see Dax Carlisle, facebook.com, you'll see me on there. And I have it up there as my profile pic. And
Mine too.
Yeah, and so does Janet. Yeah, and I was talking to Janet about that. I said, you gave me the greatest idea. Not only is this cool, my mom loves it, by the way, but I turned it into a business card for my hypnotherapy and life coaching business.
And it looks really cool.
The Coffee House Coach. Yeah. And so it's got that image, and it's like, oh, see, there's so much coming out of this coffee deck besides the deck.
Well, that's another thing that we love to do with our decks and books is inspire people to be creators themselves, to take what we've given them and to either create the life they want or to actually use it for inspiration to enhance their life. And so, it just thrills us that if any of our art or writings inspires someone in any way to better their life or to, launch a career or to be more creative or to take some risks or even, to grow and have more self-discovery, then we feel like we've done our job because we're not in it for the money. And Ron and I are outliers. We are not, what's the word? We're outliers. We're on the edge. We are not beholden to any publisher or any person. We are outlaws and renegades and and what have you. We do what we want, and but we have a loyal following, and so that's what we're in it for. We're in it for the long haul, the eternal rewards, the karma, and the kind of things that we want to sow in life. We want to sow inspiration. We want to sow empowerment. We want to sow delight and joy and discovery, and that's all that matters to us. It doesn't matter if we're not the latest favorites.
Yeah, but the followers are there because in less than 24 hours you hit your goal, and it's still really early on in the Kickstarter. Yeah. I hope a lot of people go out there and pledge. I hope you get up there to the $10,000 mark, the 15.
Oh my gosh, that would be so great. If we got to that mark, I think everybody would get an 8x10 metallic print of the card of their choice. In addition to all the other stretch goals, including the bonus cards and things like that. So, oh my God, if we were to get to the 10,000 level, it would blow our mind. It would be make us so happy that we could do these extra goodies for people too, exclusive, just for our supporters. We'd be thrilled, and we'll probably be doing extra stuff in our updates. I haven't discussed this with Ron, but I'll spring it on him now. I was thinking.
Of course you will.
Yes, that maybe he'll feel pressure now. No, I was thinking, wouldn't it be nice if you did some coffee coloring pages for people, for just our supporters in black ink, and just, some nice, coffee-related things, and then I'll scan it and they can color it.
We'll see.
That's a yes. It's a yes. But we want to do exclusive things for our backers. It's that.
And they have to. People really need to go look and just go down all the different levels because it is amazing. It just builds and builds. It's not just going and pledging and getting a deck. I mean, there is so many things, so many levels with so many really cool goodies out there.
Thank you. Well, it was a hard thing though for me because I was afraid I would overwhelm people because I do get irritated going to a Kickstarter sometime and there's so many reward levels and it's not worded clearly and you're not sure how to do things, and then sometimes you just get so disgusted and you're like, oh, forget it. But on the other hand, I wanted to provide so many original cool goodies for our backers as thanks. So it's like, what do I do? Do I hold back on all the goodies we could provide them and make it more clear cut, Or do I just throw everything in there that I think would be cool that I would want if there was a coffee tarot,
Yeah.
and then just try to make it as absolutely clear as I can, so there's no confusion. So that's what I ended up choosing to do, because I had Kickstarter levels actually scripted months ago, but there's some things that I decided not to do, other things I decided to add. And so it took a long time for me to like think mentally, okay, how much would these cost? You know, am I allowing enough for shipping? Because in the U.S., shipping is included in all tiers. Now, if it's international, they're of course going to have to add, and it'll show them it'll do it automatically for a person, because unfortunately international shipping is so insane, especially if they're going to happen to get my print companion book, which I expect to be pretty thick and heavy. So I just wanted to make it as clear, but it took a while. Then I had to make the graphics for everything. I wanted to explain, why are we using Kickstarter? Why are we just not taking pre-orders on Etsy or our site? What is involved with the cards, where the funds are going to go, who we are, what we're about,
There's a lot.
So I wanted to be so clear and just throw it. And so far, most people, anybody who's asked a question, I added to an FAQ on the Kickstarter page. Like somebody asked, okay, will your deck be available after Kickstarter? To which I said yes, but it won't have the Kickstarter exclusive tech box, nor will it have any bonus cards or the significator cards, which we didn't talk about. That's right.
Yes,
I created
before we go, we have to talk about that.
Yeah, I created a significator system for our Snowland deck that was the cube, the icicle, the snowflake, and the snowball. And I created the psychological system for people, for tarot readers. If they're going to do a reading for someone, what they do is they shuffle those 4 significator cards, show it to the querent or themselves, and ask, okay, which card do I most resonate with right now? Which one feels like most me, or where I'm at? And once they choose that card, I actually have a corresponding psychological profile to kind of give the reader a heads up to what they're going to be asking or where they're at in life. And I have not seen it fail yet. I was doing a reading for someone, and it was a relationship reading, and I had forgotten to do the significator system, and it was an after effect, but I thought, oh, I'm going to test it on her. So she had no idea what they meant, nothing. So I took the 4 cards and I shuffled them, and I asked her, I says, which one do you feel most resonates with right now? And I'll be darned, she went right to the snowball, which correlates to emotional issues and relationships and beyond. So I have actually that breakdown on my blog, fizzofideas.com, but I decided to do the same type of significator system, but I'll alter it just a little bit. And what those are going to be is they're going to be the 4 elements. It's going to be the same elements that are behind the court cards. So there's going to be like leaves and vines, there's going to be fire, there's going to be air, and there's going to be water. And they're going to work the same way, and they're going to be for like a psychological profiling before the reading. And those are going to be exclusive to the Kickstarter deck as well. Now with our Snowland deck, those come standard, the Soul GPS significator cards, but not for our coffee tarot. But we've decided to make that extra exclusive as well. To get those 4 significator cards and the system, you have to pledge through Kickstarter. And so not only will then people be getting the 78 card deck, they'll get a signed title card. That's another thing I forgot to tell them. We're going to actually sign the title card. We're not going to number them, but we're going to sign them. Mm-hmm. Any bonus cards we unlock, and the 4 significators. So it's going to be at least 78 plus the 4. And,
wow.
Then if we unlock the other 3, then it'll be 3 on top of that. So it's going to be, I can't wait to get the cards to work with them myself.
Yeah. Yeah. And are they larger than,
no.
Are they the size that you were showing there?
No, they look just like, the same with Snowland. They are the same size and the same backing.
I love how big they are. I love big cards.
Right. It's just that the front is a stripped down significator card. So like with our Snowland, it's a dark background and the icicle. But the back is the same way as the rest of the cards. So you could technically, if you wanted, put the significator cards in with the deck and shuffle them if you don't want to separate them. But the way I designed the Soul GPS system was to have the 4 cards out ahead of time, allow the querent or even yourself to say, okay, where am I at right now? And it gives some heads up to what is really on the mind of the person, what is really running in the background. Because sometimes, from doing tarot readings, somebody asks a question, but what's really on their mind is something different. And it'll end up coming out in the cards, but it also comes out in the Soul GPS.
I like that idea because I have never used significators because I don't like pulling a significator out of the actual
Exactly.
deck. Yeah. So this eliminates that problem, and you can still have significators.
That's why I created it.
But
And I
you
even wrote a
gotta
blog.
do the Kickstarter, folks. You got to go.
And that's why I wrote that post. I put why I don't use significators, and that was my biggest reason. I don't want to bring any cards out of play.
Right.
You know, and the significator system works just as well, because if a person finds, and you could do it according to your astrological sign. Some people pick significators according to if they're a water sign, air sign, they're a sign, or fire sign. You could still do that with the significators. If you didn't want a random picking, you could say, you know, ask your querent, okay, what sign are you, and then pick the element that matches with it. You could still do that, but at least you're not taking any of the 78 out of play.
Right. So how many days left in the Kickstarter?
I haven't checked. I think we're down to 29.
29. Still lots of
29
time.
or 28. 29 or 28 days.
But it is limited, especially if you want to get any of these, you know, goodies like the significators that.
It ends August 30th. It ends.
Yep. So hurry up, folks. Get out there and do it. Well, thanks for spending all this time with me. I know we went over a little bit, but
oh, that's okay.
we have way too much fun when we.
We do.
So we'll say goodbye, and it's great chatting with you, Janet and Ron. And best of luck with the Kickstarter and the Coffee Tarot.
Thank you so much for having us on, and we so much appreciate your support, Dax, and the support of the Tarot Guild. You have no idea. So thank you.
Oh, my pleasure, because it's up my alley, you know.
Yeah.
Coffee on, folks. Coffee on.
Thank you. Bye, everybody.
Thank you.